Hello and welcome to 9394, a music podcast with Travis Roy. I am Travis Roy. I hope you're doing well. We're going to get nitty gritty today. We're going to get down and dirty. We're going to be talking about Rancid and their first album, their debut, self-titled album. For this episode, I am joined by an old friend of mine who I haven't seen in a long time. I see his brother often, one of my dear friends, Jon Herominski, who's been on the show many times and talked about on the show episodes that he wasn't actually here for. His brother, Jonathan Herominski, has joined me today to talk about this album that had a big impact on him and his life. Thanks for joining us. Check it out. Hey, you there?
Hey, buddy.
How you doing, man?
Good to see you.
Good to see you. When's the last time I saw you?
It had to be back in like the early aughts.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna guess. Like probably been about 20 years.
Yeah, for sure.
Wow.
Probably the days of the dump and the dungeon.
Yeah,
all that.
Somewhere around there. We're Facebook friends, so I'm like I've seen like you know, but I haven't seen you, so it's good to see your face, man.
You too, man.
I don't drink it till I suck them up no more. But I think days gonna come out of my head better. Hurry up, it's getting harder to compare.
First of all, thank you for coming and like answering the call to do this album. What album are we doing, John?
We're doing Rancid's first self-titled album that came out in '93. His first raw recording of, Rancid as a three-piece. This was before Lars joined the band, so it's very Matt Freeman bass heavy. It's a fun, fast punk rock album. When I discovered it was, Rancid was kind of a different genre of punk that I haven't really heard, and it kind of took me down a different path in my discovery of punk rock music. So
yeah,
big album for sure.
Awesome. But yeah, I just recorded an episode on Lagwagon's Haas, and I was talking with Derek Fern, I'm sure you remember him, about the different kinds of punk. And I said that Rancid is more like spikes and leather punk as opposed to like Vans and cargo shorts punk. And so it seems like to the outside observer or listener, it may seem like, well, punk is punk, right? But there's like so many different subgenres of punk, and Rancid and Lagwagon are like as far away from each other as, I don't know, Glenn Miller and the Mighty Mighty Bosstones. Like it's very different.
Absolutely, yeah. And yeah, the punk that I was listening to before, it started with Green Day, obviously. I think that was kind of everyone's first introduction, and Bono kind of got into that grunge phase. But, after that, it was, we discovered MXPX, which, led to just finding other bands. I remember in one of the MXPX covers, there was a No Effect. The guitar player had a No Effect shirt on. And I was like, this No Effects band. And, that was kind of just weird way of discovering music back in the day. My brother was into it, so I got to tail end off of a lot of stuff that he listened to. Got big into Lookout Records, and there was a lot of good bands on there. Op Ivy being one of them.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was just an interesting time. But you're right. I would say more like, spikes, bondage pants. You're kind of going most mainstream version of that you could possibly get. Because they're really like the Exploited or the Casualties, but you're kind of just dipping your toe into those waters a little bit with them.
And, you brought up your brother. I always start the show asking my guests how we know each other. How do you and I know each other, John?
Well, again, you're a really good close friend with my brother. So there was that.
Yep.
And I think where you and I met and hung out most was parties in Ann Arbor and Ypsilanti at these houses or apartments aptly named for the vibe. So the dump or the dungeon. And can't remember what Takis's was called, but we used to have a lot of fun, like theme parties at his place, which was a good time. And then, random run-ins at Dunham Lake. We do some hangs there. And
yeah,
you were in a band.
Any shows?
Yeah, Kill Drama, see you. I went to a lot of those shows, and you were in a band with my brother for a little while. So I went to that St. Andrews show with you because that was a big thing for him, for sure.
Yeah. So we've known each other for a long time. It's been a long time since we talked
Yeah.
in person, quote unquote. But it has been a long time. So Christian, I imagine, is an older brother. You know, had a big influence on getting you. Because my older brother got me into Lagwagon and Bad Religion and other punk bands as well. So like, I can see how that would work. Now, do you remember how you got into Rancid specifically?
Yeah.
Or this album specifically?
I do, yeah. And I kind of went down it the wrong route. Like I'd mentioned, my brother like introduced me to Green Day. You know, it was on the radio, but he had the album. I think he had a cassette of Smashing Pumpkins' Gish. So like some cool stuff. And then, you know, Lookout Records, he started getting into that MXPX we got into. But like I said, No Effects, I think I found like it was in an MXPX cover. I was really curious about them. So I went out and like bought their stuff, which, you know, No Effects was kind of just a pathway to the next band. And the way I found music back then was I'd buy compilation CDs, particularly for Rancid. I think I bought, because it had No Effects on it. And I think Pennywise, who I was into at the time, it was a Punk-O-Rama Volume 2.
Oh yeah, I remember that one.
And so I would buy this album just so I could get a large swath of different punk bands, because I, you know, was just really trying to take it all in and like a sponge. And Rancid, my brother, I think he had like a little bit of a Rancid face, but he hates that band. So I think he hit me up. He's like, you should do Rancid because fuck Rancid. They've always had a soft spot in my heart. So through Punk-O-Rama, I forget which song was on there, but it was one of their, I bought the Let's Go album, which is the first introduction, which is an amazing album. And again, like a style of punk that was just hard and raw and heavy. And, you know, wasn't singing about girls or, you know, something that maybe, you know, was offensive. It was just about like hard street living, like whole different thing, tough punk rockers. And then I got And Out Come the Wolves, and it just like, because those albums came out like back to back to back. I think they did 3 albums in 3 years. So, and then from that, I want to hear the origin. And so I bought the original Rancid album, probably 97, 98 is when I actually got this album.
Okay.
So I'm in my, you know, my early teens at this point, pre-teens.
Yeah, you were born what, like 84, 85?
Yeah, 84. Yeah, 94 is when, you know, everybody got into Weezer and Green Day and kind of just took off from there. So I think 96, 97 is probably like your 90, 93, 94. Yeah.
I was just thinking that. Yeah. That's why I asked. It's a big time in a young person's life when they're really absorbing music for themselves instead of like what's being imprinted on them by their family or culture or whatever. They start really seeking stuff out, at least musically minded people like you and me.
Yeah.
I remember getting into Rancid to some degree. Like, okay, I can't say I hate Rancid like your brother, and I can't say I ever really got into Rancid either. I respect Rancid, which is why they're on the show. But I was a big Op Ivy fan. So I was aware of Rancid when this album came out because of, well, maybe not. No, I was still a little young. So maybe it's a little murky now, but you know, there was some overlap there between being aware that Op Ivy and Rancid were a thing. So that's why I checked out Rancid, you know. But I do remember this album coming out because the song Hyena was like a big single. It's still kind of amazing to me to listen to this album and think that like they took off as one of the biggest punk bands from that era. It was like Offspring and Blink-182 and some other bands, but they were right up there, right behind those guys in terms of fame and popularity. But at the same time, they are an incredibly divisive band, I think, at least amongst punk fans, because I know a lot of punk fans that are not indifferent to them. They either really dislike them or really love them.
I agree with that. And I've kind of been on the fence because I really like their early albums. And I think when their 4th album came out, I kind of dropped off, even though they were trying to go back to, I think, like an Op Ivy feel, which I loved Operation Ivy. Then they did like another hardcore punk album. And then they went to a new label and turned into garbage. They were trying to do some like mainstream, more catchy stuff. And then I remember like Kelly Osbourne was in their videos. And I was like, you're really watering down what I liked about you guys. And so I stopped listening to Rancid for probably like 18 years, maybe more.
Yeah.
And then recently got listened to some of their newer stuff, which is okay. It's like same old Rancid, really.
That's good.
They haven't changed. It's same sound.
That's good. Because to me, they're very much like a street level band, you know, like they're very urban and very like, well, poor, right? Like, I mean, like they're super rich guys, I am sure, but like, I don't imagine in their youth that they were, you know, the stuff that they talk about, the stuff they sing about, their kind of overall aesthetic, it all is, you know, pretty working class stuff. So, Yeah, I could see kind of getting away from them once they started getting into Kelly Osbourne territory.
Yeah. That was the thing, like, you and I had talked because my brother's like, you should do a podcast with him on Rancid. And it just so happened I went down a YouTube rabbit hole, I told you, where I just watched a short documentary about Rancid. And I was like, oh, this is serendipitous. Like, I guess this is perfect time. But yeah, Tim had a really tough childhood from, what I learned. Like, just got drinking and drugs at an early age. And I think he got kicked out of his home. And so he did, like, have a bit of a street life, which I always question because, there was like kind of on the verge, like the shit they sang about, especially Lars. Like, Lars always pissed me off. But it just kind of felt like they were posers to some degree, too. Like, thinking about hard life. But I guess, a lot of them lived that for sure.
Yeah.
Oakland and in the Bay Area. Tim, especially in this first album, is just singing about living on the streets and just family being alcoholics and running from the cops, drugs. Like, when you're a kid hearing that stuff, that's like, I think that was an age too. That was like right when my parents were getting divorced. So I'm angry. And like, this was like fast, angry outlet too. And some of these songs, Tim's like screaming into them. So I connected a lot more, I think, because of that too. Because I was just an angry kid at the time.
That's a good point. I spend a lot of time in 93, 94, which is, you're 96, 97 or whatever. And I focus on the self-imposed solitude with music that comes with that age on this show, but I don't often focus on the reality that it's an angry age. Like 12, 13, 14 years old is a time when like you're just starting, like all these fucking chemicals are running through you and you don't have, like you say, like a good outlet. You haven't learned how to healthily exercise your anger out of you, So stuff like this can be really cathartic at that age, and you could really attach to stuff that's dark or angry or fierce because it's just like your life up until that point has been bubblegum, but there's suddenly that doesn't match what you're feeling.
Yeah. And, to some degree, music is definitely escapism. That age for sure.
Yeah.
Listen to it, put the headphones on and check out for a while yeah.
So what's your favorite song on this album?
I mean, apropos, it's Hyena, I would say.
Mine too.
It is a banger. I don't think this is a super strong album, but that song just rips hard. It starts out with the heavy bass, kind of just walking, do 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 do, and then Tim comes in with like a little like O-top. I'd be like, pick it up, here we go, and like it's just fun energy. The music video was gnarly. I think I remember seeing it on MTV because Rancid got a little bit of late night MTV time, and it was a hard video. It like looked like hard crust punks just hanging out, like carrying baseball bats, like over the top for sure.
Yeah, very gritty.
I loved it. And it's just a fast song. Nothing technical. It's really, this whole album's just verse, chorus, bridge, guitar solo.
Yeah.
Heavy bass guitar.
Yeah.
Like Freeman's running like 18th notes through a lot of these songs, but this one is just kind of is laid back, just a constant walking bass line through the whole thing. Amazing bass player. And Tim's voice too is just, that's another thing about Rancid. I don't think I've heard another band that sounds like them that I can think of. They have a very unique style to me.
You always know when you're listening to Rancid. Like, even if you've never heard the song before, there's no question who you're listening to.
Yeah. And then again, I think this song, singing about being broke and homeless and kicked out of his house. So just really angry energy, things that angsty teenager really like latches onto. So that definitely is, it's still like maybe one of Rancid's best songs. Like maybe it's top 5, I would say still.
Yeah, I have to agree with you on a couple points. I do think this is the best song on the album, and I agree that like it's a decent album, but it's not their strongest that I've listened to. It's their first album, right? So what are you going to do? It's like they're learning how to do stuff still, and they're still adjusting to who they are. But if the whole album had had the same intensity of Hyena, I would have grown up listening to this album a lot. Instead, really, I have not listened to it until recently. I've heard it, but I hadn't like spent time with it until recently.
Right. I could say the same point. Like this was just the raw ground structure for Rancid. And they were all musicians that came from other bands. Op Ivy, both Matt and Tim were in. So they had, the fundamentals down. And Brett came from, I think also Matt toured with Millions of Dead Cops and he did like Europe tour. So he was like kind of well versed. So they started out pretty strong, like for a first album. But yeah, there's not a lot of hits on this one where I think in Let's Go, their second album, they really started finding their structure. And Lars joined the band at that point. And as much as I really despise Lars, and this based on interviews I've just seen with him, I don't know. He seems like a total fucking poser to me, that guy. But I digress. They were just really finding their sound with Let's Go. And then like Out Come the Wolves was, I would say, their best album to date and had a real Op Ivy feel to it as well. Like a little more ska reggae tones to it.
Yeah, that's when they really hit the road. That's when they really hit their confidence. And I think that was like that's like peak Rancid from what I can tell, although I haven't stuck with them. But yeah, this album is still, the training wheels are on still. They're still fit, like you say, like they're well established as musicians, but in terms of figuring out exactly what their sound is as a band, they're still working on that. What's the bass player's name? Matt Freeman? Is that what you said?
Yeah, Matt Freeman.
So it is Matt Freeman that's singing backing vocals on this, right? You mentioned Tim's vocals, which are unique, but they work really well. Freeman's vocals are terrible. Bad. I'm sorry.
What's the word? Acquired taste. When there's a Matt Freeman song, it's hard to like listen to him. It's really like nails on a chalkboard. He is a bad singer, but I love the group that just lets him do it. They're just like, we're a band and you wrote this song, so you sing it. And I guess that's cool.
That is cool. You're right. But he sounds like a fucking Muppet.
You think the producer, because they went with Epitaph, I believe, in this album. So they started out with a pretty big label. Yeah. With Mr. Brett. And yeah, you'd think the producer would be like, maybe we do a little more Tim vocal here. Or I don't know. I think the producer was just like, fuck it. Like, do what you guys are going to do.
Yeah, probably just like it's a 3-piece. You're not going to be able to, at that point, you try and stop him. Then like, who's going to do all of what he does? So it kind of had to be done, but he doesn't sing as much these days, right? On later albums, I feel like it's Lars singing backup more, right?
Yeah, he'll get like a song or two on an album, if that. But this album's really heavy with him. Yeah, some of the songs, he's really prominent on it, and it's really hard to listen to.
It is. So with that in mind, what do you think is the least good song on this album?
Oh, God. There's one that should not have been made. It just doesn't sound like Rancid at all. It's Out of My Mind, track 7.
You're walking like a monkey who's been German, a junkie on a mission to get money for a new suit and tie. To wear a reception, where every good exception, and give compliments and praise to the one they despise. Flashing your smile in the mirror all the while, trying to cultivate the style of the bastards in power. We know you're selling, your neighbor's Twitch is telling, you're coming on smelling like the pig of the hour. Got a lot of people telling me I'm out of my mind and I don't know why. I've got a lot of people telling me I'm out of my mind and I don't know why.
I don't know, man. Maybe they were high in the studio and they're like, yeah. And just one of those songs you write in the studio, you're like, yeah, let's add it. And they're all, you're pumped because it's a new song, but it's, the first line's like, you're walking like a monkey who's trained by a sick junkie. It's just like elementary grade, like rhyme scheme. It just really doesn't match the rest of the album. It's not hard. Yeah. But maybe a prelude to the Transplants, like kind of had that little vibe. Tim was always like, had one foot into almost like kind of a rap style. And this song kind of felt like it was in that avenue, just like the rhyme scheme.
Yeah, very unique, for sure. I don't know if it's fair for me to pick a least good song on the album because I haven't spent as much time with it as you. I will say a couple things. I'll say that, for one, Freeman's vocals on that song, Rejected, like it's just like, what the fuck? Like, I struggled with that song in particular.
Crossing bridges in the land of the forgotten.
And also, I know in 1993 that Detroit was a dangerous city, but don't ever call my city a bad city. I cannot abide. I cannot abide that.
Beef with Rancid for that one, huh?
It's not a bad city.
Do you know what time it was? It's soaring way down. Detroit, Michigan, on a busted town. Last night I was fighting all in the street, but the night I got a girl next to me in this cold world. She brings me in. I got a good feeling like bad tonight.
Oh, Rejected, like that chorus. Yeah, kind of reminds me of like a Creed, kind of a guttural. I hate it.
Pissed off Cookie Monster, man. That's what it sounds like. Pissed off Cookie Monster.
But the bass in that song is fucking driving, like 16th note, fucking ripping through.
He is a very, very good bass player, and he works perfectly for the style of music that they're doing. Like, he really is a strong bass player. But I'm glad that as the band went on, someone had to have said to him, like, hey, man, so people are saying things about your vocals. What are you going to do?
Yeah.
So what about an underrated song on this album? Is there songs that, or a song that you feel like people have not given its fair shake?
I don't know if it's underrated. Like I said, this album's not super strong as an album, but I liked Injury as a kid.
Excuse me while I pull a knife on my back. How could I ever trust a person like that? I lost at the flow. Someone moving faster. Behind the wall limits. The cold bastard. Corporate ever question. Through the fucking glass. Take your fucking money and shove it on your ass. Take your fucking lies. I've had enough of you and all that shit that you're pumping through. Injury. Yeah, on the train.
On the chorus, a little bit of Matt Freeman and Tim both singing, but it's not as bad as like really extending Rejected. But yeah, it's something I liked as a kid because I think, again, I was angry. This was a song about like betrayal, backstabbing. And, you know, as a kid, you know, something like your friends don't want to hang out with you or a girl rejects you. Like, this is something you can really latch onto and like, feel like, yeah, guys, I've been betrayed. And, you know, it's just kind of that escapism. So I connected with that as a kid. And I thought this was kind of a hard, fast song as well.
Yeah.
And a really good bass line throughout this song as well.
Yeah, it's got a good energy that matches the rest of the album, I guess. You know what I mean? Like, if I was to pick a song from the album kind of at random to represent it, I think it would be a good one for that. And as far as, I mean, I don't want to just continually rip on the guy's vocals, but I will say that, to say something nice, that it does work. I mean, it fits the style. I don't know if it works, but it fits the style of music that they're doing, and it fits more or less what Tim is doing. You know, Tim is, I can see people not liking his voice, but you never hear anybody complain about his voice, even though he's got like mush mouth and like, you know,
my brother,
I think he's got a good voice.
My brother complains.
Your brother complains.
Yeah. But I do remember the funny thing about him, I think he got Life Won't Wait was the one album he got, which is probably their most tame, you know, not punk rock forward album. And I think he had a shirt. So I think he had like a brief Rancid phase for like a year. I think that was the year he was like, he like carved anarchy into his like dresser and shit. And and that's kind of the path you go down with Rancid. No, but they got me in because my brother went pop punk, and Rancid kind of got me into, you know, like the Misfits came next, and, you know, Buzzcocks, like older bands, like kind of got me into like, whoa, so this is hardcore. And I kind of got a little more into Dead Kennedys, things like that. Really opened up a different side of punk.
And your own side of punk, right? Because like you're trying to, like, as a younger brother, I know like you are on one hand influenced by him, but you also want to differentiate yourself from him and have your own interests.
Absolutely. I think my nickname was Miniature Christian growing up with all his friends. So it was like, yeah, I was really about like separating myself. And that's probably why I did such a hard turn. And I mean, Lagwagon wasn't really on my radar, and Blink-182, I kind of went more down this path.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of Epitaph records for sure, and Fat Records when that came out. That was kind of where I went, and then started getting into old stuff. But my brother loves listening to Dead Kennedys back in the day too, so he did introduce me to a lot. And Lookout Records, I thought they had some good bands on that.
Right on.
For sure.
What song you want to use to go out on?
Oh God, man. I mean, the first song, Adina, wasn't bad. The only punk song I know that starts with a vibra slap, and I think they did that a couple other times, which is a very unique Rancid trait. But again, not a lot of hits on this album, so I can't really say underrated. But I don't know, Adina's good.
Okay.
Again, another song about homelessness and street living, which is just classic Rancid. That's mostly what they were just on about for the longest time. Yeah, that was a good one. And I think in this song too, it's where they kind of got the trope where I think it was this song where he names a lot of street names in like Oakland and San Francisco, which is hilarious because a guy on Instagram like kind of memed them and would walk around the city and like look at streets and he'd be like, he was on Montgomery Street. And he'd walk a little more and point to another song and then sing. It is the funniest fucking thing I've ever seen and so accurate, where Rancid just really got to tell you about what streets they were on. Yeah.
They're grounding it in reality.
There's a good opener for this album. I mean, Hyena was the banger here, but I guess if I had to pick one, that was one I kind of liked too on the album.
Right on. Okay, we'll go with that. Have you ever seen them live?
Many times.
Yeah?
Yeah, I saw them. It was either Warped Tour 2000 or 2001. It's my first time seeing them.
I think that's the only time I saw them.
Yeah. And that was a really heavy mosh pit. I remember that was like the first mosh pit I got really beat up in.
The bouncers?
Oh, yeah. I was crowd surfing, and I think I kicked the dude by accident when I was trying to get over the gate, and he gave me a good punch in the gut and, like, sent me off. I was like, I don't know, 15 at the time then. It was bad. But, yeah, it was a really good show. Liberty spiked. I think he had a red mohawk then, too. And then I've seen him a few times recently, like in the past 5 years. They played in San Francisco at the Masonic. Yeah, I've seen him at least 3 or 4 times, and I'm going to see him this year. They're touring with Green Day and Smashing Pumpkins. And I was like, that sounds great. Why not?
That's kind of a weird lineup, though, isn't it? I mean, like 2 punk bands and...
Yeah, and then I forgot the name, the Low Lindas or something like that. It's like this...
Oh, the Lindas or something like that.
Yeah, it's like a 13-year-old punk. And I've seen them before, too, just randomly at a festival. Yeah, it's a weird lineup, but, just 90s throwback. And that's what Rancid is to me in general. It's just the nostalgia. I still love Smashing Pumpkins. I still love Green Day. Again, I think there was a long period where I stopped listening to Green Day because they were not very good. But their old stuff, up to like Nimrod, was gold in my mind.
I feel like that's kind of part of aging, or maybe, for our generation or something. But I did a similar thing. There's some albums from that era that I never set down and just stuck with the whole time. But there's a lot of that stuff that like I listened to it obsessively then, and then I just moved on into screamo and hardcore and like other genres, Americana and stuff. And for a long time, just was like going down the other paths. But as I've gotten older, like the last 10 years, all I really want to listen to is shit from the early mid 90s.
Me too. I still have NoFX heavy on my playlist to this day. I'm still stuck in that era.
It's our classic rock.
It's very nostalgic.
Yeah.
And like you said, a little bit cathartic.
For sure. Okay, so I always end the show talking about some random 90s thing or something along those lines. I want to talk snacks with you. Let's talk snacks. Snacks from the 1990s that have been discontinued. I'm going to give you some options, and you're going to pick one and tell me which one you would go with.
I love this.
All right. So I got a list here. Let's see. We got a few. And some of them I can even like show you pictures. Let's see. There. For instance, we have Dorito 3Ds.
3Ds. I remember those.
Yeah. Dorito 3Ds. They were just bugles, right?
Yeah. And I was not a fan of bugles or those, I remember. So that definitely wouldn't be my choice.
I think there's a reason that they were discontinued. On the other hand, I don't know if I need to show you a picture for this one. On the other hand, we have Kudos. Remember Kudos?
Yeah.
Yep. Kudos chocolate-covered granola bars. Seems like a basic thing. I don't know why they went away, but they went away.
Those aren't around anymore?
No, they're gone.
Oh, okay.
There's a reason why you haven't had them in a long time. PB Crisps? Does this ring any bells?
PB Crisp, PB Crisp, PB Crisp. Peanut butter cream is the name of the cream. PB Crisp, PB Crisp, PB Crisp. The sweet taste that is destined for fame.
Yes. I sat down with PB Crisp often.
What were they exactly? The package says sweet peanut butter cream inside. So it was a soft shell kind of like fake candy peanuts with peanut butter inside?
Yeah, I think that was their attempt to go down the candy route. And from my memory, it was like they looked like peanuts.
Yeah.
And it was just like a grain layer. I don't really think it had flavor, but inside they like jammed really sweet peanut butter. And so it's just like you're mowing down on peanut butter bites. And
sounds good.
So it's like kind of like Reese's Pieces kind of vibe to it. But yeah, they were good. They were kind of addicting. So I'm glad they got rid of those.
The whistle pop. Remember the whistle pop? Let's see if I can get this to the screen. Remember these things?
Yes.
They're like, for those that cannot see what we're looking at, they're like pink, and they're literally a fucking candy that you could whistle with. I don't know. It was a sucker and a whistle at the same time.
Yeah, they were disgusting. I remember they had like a waxy flavor, but goddamn, you could whistle, and you could like, it was like a slide whistle pretty much a genius. It was just disgusting.
Oh yeah. That may have been a gimmick. Keebler had Munchums, these crackers from back in the day.
New Keebler Munchums are now much more fun.
Any bell on those? They're like,
don't remember.
They're as generic as could be. I remember that I ate them. That's pretty much all I can tell you. They were in the house. They were Butterfinger BBs. Remember Butterfinger BBs? These little they're like little tiny balls of Butterfinger, like covered in chocolate.
Yeah, I remember that, and I'm pretty sure there was a Bart Simpson commercial about them.
Huh? What the? You're such a brat, Bart. What? Yeah, you won't share your Butterfinger BB.
So we're taking them.
Ooh, bite size.
Down the hatch, sir.
No, Maggie, no.
Groovy munchies, man.
I was not a big fan of Butterfinger, or ever was.
Dude.
That bar was just never tasted great to me. I don't even know what the flavor is, to tell you the truth.
I'm pretty sure it's gingivitis or like tooth decay is the flavor. There's never been a candy more designed to just fuck people's teeth up.
Nobody better lay a finger on my Butterfinger BBs.
Keebler's Pizzerias.
Oh, I don't remember.
No,
but I probably got down on those, I'm sure.
Yeah, they're basically Doritos with pizza flavoring. I don't know. So this is the one in particular. I was like, I think I need to show him pictures. The WWF ice cream bars.
Well, you know, at this time of year, brother, the superstars of wrestling ice cream bars, they are fantastic. Isn't that right, Frankie? Frankie, wait a minute. You're supposed to share this. What? Give me some of that. They are fantastic. Yeah.
Do you remember these things?
I do not, but I had some friends growing up as a kid who were just big wrestling fans, and I'm sure they had these packed in their freezers. So I'm sure I've had a few, but no, my memory eludes me on those.
I didn't remember until I saw the picture, because it was just like dark on one side and light on the other side. And the light side would have like a candy drawing of, Macho Man Randy Savage or whatever. PB Max, this candy bar from Mars. Remember these? These were fucking great.
We'd like to introduce you to PB Max. Now that don't mean Pretty Boy Max, or Max's Performing Bear, or Maximilian's Purple Bandoleros. The PB means peanut butter. Real peanut butter. Lots of real peanut butter.
I do. Those were, just as good as the PB Crunch, I thought. Those are on the same level. No, those are awesome.
Yeah.
Even if you're as big as Paul Bunyan, you'll pat your belly. PB Max, we mean peanut butter.
The last option was the Choco Taco.
Oh, just discontinued.
Yeah. Well, there's been talk of bringing it back already, but yeah, the Choco Taco was around for a while and discontinued maybe a year or two ago. But if we're going to go back in time to the 90s, it's an option. So to run you through these real quick, these are your options for our 1990s snack time. Doritos 3D, the Kudos candy or granola bar, whatever, PB Crisps, the Whistle Pop, which you don't want, Munchums, peanut butter BBs, which neither of us want, the pizzerias, the WWF thing, the ice cream bar, PB Max, or Choco Taco.
Choco Taco holds a special place in my heart, but I would probably go with the PB Crisps. I do remember getting down on those back in the day, and they were addicting for sure.
And especially if it was only like a one-time thing, so you know it's not like you can have it for the rest of your life.
There's a bunch of restaurants here that make the Choco Taco now because it's gone and it's becoming kind of a thing. So I can get the Choco Taco still anywhere.
There you go. And it will probably come back. Out of all the ones we listed, that's probably the only one that's going to come back. So I think I would go with I'd either go with the PB Crisp, or what's it called? PB Crisps?
Mm-hmm.
I'd either go with that or the PB Max. I'll go with the PB Max. I'll take the PB Max.
I think those are both good choices. Just peanut butter head.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for doing this, dude. It means a lot to me. I appreciate you taking time out of your day, and you're very welcome to come back on the show if you can think of any other albums from the era that you want to talk about.
Thanks, Travis. No, it was fun, man. Had a blast. It was good to kind of rehash some old music from my early years. So thank you for that. And the show's, like I said, I've definitely perused through a few of your episodes, and it's a good show. So I'm glad I get my brother to do a podcast. I think it'd be a good release or outlet for him. You having him on, I think, is a good something for him to do, which is good. But I talked to him. I was like, they always like prime Bjork time. So you should do a Bjork episode because he's definitely way into Bjork. So I think
he wants to do a debut next time he comes on. So
nice. I just talked to him a few weeks ago. So
that's right.
He's like, yeah, I was just saying that to him.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Awesome, man. Well, enjoy the rest of your Sunday. Thank you again for doing this.
You too, man. Good to see you.
I don't wanna move from cavemen over and over again. We don't bruise the record that's broken until it's crying again. She's crying again.
There are so many reasons for me to love doing this show, but the fact that I can reconnect with people like Jon Herominski after fucking decades, actually talking to him as opposed to, Facebook posts and that kind of thing. It's awesome. It's just so great. And I really appreciate him coming on. I appreciate you listening. Fun little story here, at least I think. I think the odds are good. If you're listening to the Rancid episode here, you maybe did not listen to my last episode, which was Billy Joel's River of Dreams from 1993 with my buddy Steve. But funny enough, I saw Steve for the first time since I published that episode a couple nights ago with our buddy Corey, who had bought a kind of like a Trivial Pursuit game, but it was the History Channel's knockoff version of it. So it's basically like a Trivial Pursuit kind of thing. And one of the cards that I got in my hand, it wasn't the question for him, which would have been perfect, but it was a question above what I was reading Steve. The question was, just out of all the cards I could have pulled and all the fucking questions it could have been, was what 1993 album called River of Dreams was released by, famous pop artist or something like that. I thought that was super weird. Very cool. Anyways, that's my story. So I'd love it if you come on the show. I'm always looking for new guests or more guests, returning guests. All of you people listening who have been on the show before, I do want you to come back. I really do. I'm just not going to, beg for it. And, yeah, I will. Who am I kidding? I will do that when it gets bleak enough in terms of how many recordings I have lined up for the show. But in the meantime, just know that you are welcome back. And if you've never been on the show, you are, of course, welcome on. All you got to do is email me at 9394podcast@gmail.com. If you like Rancid, maybe you like No Use for a Name. In 1993, the punk band No Use for a Name released the album, the EP, The Daily Grind. And this song, Until It's Gone, is the first song on that album. Maybe you want to talk about that album or some other punk band from the era or any other genre from the era. Any album that I haven't already done on the show, I'm looking to do. So if you're curious to do it, or maybe you know somebody else that you think would be a good fit on the show, tap them and point them my way. 9394podcast@gmail.com, or I'm on Facebook. That's pretty much the only social media I actually use. That's it. I'm going to leave it at that. I thank you again for listening. Have a good one. '93.94, a music podcast with Travis Roy, is a labor of love. It is not and never will be monetized. Please don't sue.